Hello friends, welcome back to this channel. I know some of you have been waiting for the next part. Here we go. Now, before we proceed from where we left off, kindly consider subscribing to the channel, whether you are a new viewer or you've been here for some time and you are yet to subscribe. I will really appreciate it. And also remember to leave your comments in the comments section below, letting me know where you need clarity or what I should work on next. So before we proceed, because when we stopped back, I said we are now supposed to build the front end, which is what you can see right now. But before we do that, there are a few things that we need to look into, and that is, as you can see here, we have two things. We have this pop-up here and we have this one. So these are actually JetPopups, and as I said when we were starting with this series, is that I am using JetPopup rather than Elementor. And for JetPopup, this is what you need to know. For instance, let me just show you the setup that I have here for assigning a task. So you will create a new pop-up. That is, if you are using Jet Engine pop-up or JetPopup, then there is one important thing that you need to do, and that is making sure that you set up your pop-up visibility in the right way. So the first thing you will do, you need to add a condition, and because you are dealing with Profile Builder, going directly with this default condition might not work out of the box for you. So this is what you're supposed to do. Go to, instead of entire site, you need to go to singular, then not front page, but go to page, then select the page that is for your account. Now, I hope you guys understand what this means. It depends with how the page that hosts all the templates that you've built with Profile Builder is named, whether it's dashboard, whether it's account, whether it's profile, whatever you are using for that, that's basically what you are supposed to do. So this account here, if you look at the front end here in the URL, you can see we have account before we can have the template following that in the URL. And what that tells this pop-up is that it is supposed to be displayed in any account page, regardless of what template we have on that page. But in my case, because I have so many pop-ups, and doing this with each and every pop-up will really make this page to be sluggish. So what I did is I introduced a URL query parameter that signals this pop-up it should only be visible on a page that has this specific URL query parameter, and not in every account page that we have on the entire site. So you must set the visibility condition before this pop-up can work for your use case. Now, that said and done, if you will have any questions or need clarity on JetPopups, let me know in the comments section down below. It's exactly the same thing that you need to do for this other one, and that should be done for you. We already built the listings that we are supposed to have here, and we already built the table again. And now what we are supposed just to do is jump straight in and see how to put all these things together from Elementor Page Builder right now. All right, now as you can see here, we have the editing template loaded, and basically what you want to do is design it based on how you want. I will only focus on the logic, of this thing rather than the design aspect of it. So the first thing here is the button. You can use any widget. You can use a button, you can use an icon, you can use a heading widget. whatever you want to use for this. For me, it's a typical button. Then what you need to do is go to the Advanced tab and look for JetPopup, and this is only if you are using JetPopup. If it's Elementor pop-up, then you should configure it based on how Elementor pop-ups are handled. So go to JetPopup, then in the attach pop-up, you need to select the correct pop-up from the list. For this case here, it's assign task. Then the trigger type is click on widget, and that's all you need to do. Maybe if, for instance, in my case here, this page is visible to both staff members and administrator, what I also did was use dynamic visibility to make sure that this button is only visible to administrators, because those are the ones who assign tasks to staff members. So it's show element if condition is met, and that is the user role, which is the roles that I have included down there, and that's done with that. Repeat the same thing for the other button. For now, creating individual task. You can see I'm using an icon here, and in the Advanced tab, I'm now adding JetPopup, and that is the new task, and trigger type is click on widget, and that's done. Now down here, what we have, these are tabs, and they are nested tabs. So for this to work for you, make sure that you have in Elementor settings, go to features and make sure you enable or activate nested elements for this to work for you. So these are tabs, and what we basically need to do here is drop in the listing grid widget, and in those listing grids we will select these widgets. We'll select the listings based on what they represent, that is today, tomorrow, all upcoming, overdue, and all tasks. Remember, we already created these listings, so our work is just to drop them in. Now this is what you do with these listings. Designing is entirely up to you, but what I just want to focus on here is, in this particular point, you don't need to select anything else down below in all these options that you've been given here. Now for my case here, I do not want to show a lot of them, so I only need 3 columns, and I only need 3 tasks or 3 posts, and that's all. Then down here I'm using the pagination widget. So this also comes with Jet Engine. This is a Crocoblock feature. So what you do now, back to our listing here, go to the Advanced tab and make sure you assign this unique CSS ID. This is very important. And why are we doing so? It's because we have multiple listings on this page, and we are using pagination, which needs to know which listing grid to work with, and that CSS class, not class, but CSS ID that we added to this listing grid, it's what we also add here as the query ID, and that should make this work smoothly. You should repeat that for everything else on this part, and that should be done as well. Next, it's the table here, and you need to search for dynamic table from the elements panel, drop it in, and this table, you will have to select the table that we created, that is the table that lists all the assigned tasks. In your case, you will not have these additional buttons that you see here and the search box just yet. Why? It's because this is leveraging a custom code that we have working in the background. So I will do this. Let me show you the snippet, and I will also make it available for you. This is already done for the table. You will style it based on your tastes and preferences, so I'm not going to touch anything on styling while here. And the next, let us do this. Let us look at the snippet first before we can go to the third part. And I will just explain. The snippet is straightforward. It works out of the box. And there is only one thing that you need to do, which I'm going to explain to you right away. So when you drop in the table widget, go to the advanced tab, and you want to add this CSS class. You need to add this CSS class name here, which I will just okay, it's here, it's already here. I will just write a short description of what this is, so that when you grab this snippet, you will know exactly what to do with it. And that's all that you need to do. If you want to mess with this snippet, that's entirely up to you, but it works right straight out of the box as is. So this is because I do not want this code to apply to each and every data table that is available on the website. That's why we only assign it to specific tables that we want to add these extra features to this to the table. And that's all. So the last part here, it's tasks assigned to me, which these are only visible to staff, and it's exactly the same process that we done here. That is, drop in the widget, I mean the listing grid, style it, make sure to select the correct listing grid, then give it a CSS class, I mean CSS ID, and that CSS ID should also be given to this down here. Now, if you want to use maybe a button to load more, for instance, maybe you want to use the load more button, it's exactly the same thing. You need to give your give the grid a class, and that now is added here in load more element ID, and that is what you will also add to the button as the CSS, so that it can work. If you don't do that, it won't work. But if you are using load infinite scroll, you don't need to do anything else. That's just all you'll have to do. We are done with this part. And I think the next thing that we need to do now is proceed to the next parts of this video, and that is looking at how to now build the single post type pages, templates, for the individual tasks or personal tasks, as well as those of assigned tasks. So what we want to look at, let me just open this one here, is a few things. So number one is to see how to create this form here. We will basically start with this form, which submits the status change for the personal tasks. Then we look at the listings for the subtasks, which are down here. And we will now go back to these other basic things that are built right inside the single post template. These other things are supposed to be created first before we can jump in. Let us go and start with this form. I'm pretty sure you guys are eager to know how it works, especially the fact that we just select something from the drop down, and we are supposed to, and it just does its thing. Now I'm working on this new feature, which is just asking for confirmation before you can proceed to submit any Jet form that you have on your website. So that's how that works, and let us see how to create that, then we will proceed from there. So I will go to first of all, I will open up a snippet, because that specific functionality that you just saw leverages a very simple snippet, which is here. It's a JavaScript called snippet, and we have a couple of things here that you will have to modify when you get this snippet. and that should be ready to work for you. I will get back to this part in a moment, but first let me find that form and open it up. So that should be let me just go to the last. I have quite a number of forms here. So it should be update personal task status, which is this one here. Now this is a very simple form. It has only two fields. The first field is a hidden field, and its purpose is to capture the post ID for the current post, and current post is the task itself. That is one. Then the next thing is the select or drop down field that has these options that we see here, and these are terms from a taxonomy. And which taxonomy is it? It's status, and this is status for individual tasks. So that is what we are using. So field option is terms and the taxonomy is the status. Now these are the things that you need to do so that this form can work with the code snippet that we have here. So the first thing is this select field needs to be given a CSS class name. Give it a CSS class name of your choice. That's one. Then the second thing is to also give this submit button a CSS class name as well. Now back to this select field here, and when we go back to our snippet, this is what we have. Number one, okay, this ID, this is the form ID, and to get form ID you can easily get it from the URL here when you are editing the form. So this is the form ID, and the other way to find the form ID is simply looking for it from the forms list. When you are there, you can also see the form ID in the shortcode that JetFormBuilder provides for you. So that is the form ID, and that is the first thing that you need to capture and put it here. The second thing here is the change state. So this is what the JavaScript listens to when something changes here. Immediately you select something from the drop down, it signals the JS that something has changed, and it will submit the form automatically. So that's what you add here. So this is P status change. So that's the second thing. And the last one is the submit button. You remember we gave it a CSS class name. Yep. So this, it's the button that the JavaScript will trigger once something has changed, and that's how easy it works. So JavaScript listens to this form 487, then it listens to the change that happens in this field, then it triggers the submit button to submit the form. So this is what you need to mess up with only. Just replace these figures or these values here with values that you have on your side. Then there is one, that is the submit button is not visible, and simply because we are using CSS to hide it, and that's all. That's all. So if you've been wondering a lot how this works, that's how it works. But I will show you the CSS when we get to this part. Now, how about we now proceed to look into this part here that has the, what do we call this? The listings for subtasks. Okay, so let me see. Let us just move out of this part because we don't need it. We'll just move out of it. Then let's go to Jet Engine. And actually before even building the grid, before building the listing grid, we actually need to first have what we call this thing. We need the query for that one. And since this is the subtasks here are CCTs, you remember these are CCTs, we will have to create a CCT query. That's what we need to create. Now for me, I already have it, so I will just search for it. So task, subtask, we'll get it. So subtasks for current personal task, which is this one. It's a CCT query. So let's open this so that I can take you through what's going on. Awesome. Now this is a simple one that I want to explain very fast. Now give it a name as usual, and the query type, as I've said, it's a CCT type. Now down here you will select the correct CCT. For you here it's personal subtask, because that's what we're dealing with. Then now this is the most important thing that you need to pay attention to, the clause down here. So the field, and this field is from this CCT, it's the task ID. Remember I explained what task ID means, or what it stands for, or what it stores. This task ID stores the post ID for our task, or rather it stores the post ID. So that ID, it should be equal to the ID of the current post or the current task. That's the most important part for this thing here. So that task ID should be equal to current ID. What current ID means is the current post ID, and that's done. So that query as it is, it will take care of listings all the specific subtasks for each task, provided the task ID, the task ID matches what we have in this task ID field for our CCT. Now you already know how the task ID is captured and added to that CCT, and that's basically coming from this form here that we want to look at next. Very quick. We are done with this. Make sure to save your query so that you don't lose anything. Then let us go back to JetForms. Let me see, here are the forms. I will just save these like that. Then go and look for this form. It should be subtask for personal task. That's the form. So let me see. Okay, I'll have to go to the last page here and look for that add personal subtask. Yeah, that's the form. Now this is also a very simple form. Post ID. Now this post ID, it's what passes the post ID to our CCT when we insert the CCT. As you can see here, post ID, it's what passes to the task ID field. So now you know. Then the description and attachment. For attachments, as I have always explained and insisted, you must make sure that you configure the fields here properly. Make sure you have user access set. Make sure you enable this insert attachment, and make sure the field value you use ID, because as I said, IDs are easier to work with, because you can easily convert IDs into anything else you need using callbacks. Okay, so this is the form, and it also has something else here, which is it connects relationships, which we need to look at how to create very fast. So that is let me come back here, go to Jet Engine, go to relations, and basically what I want, although we will not use that because the query that we build already takes care of relating the subtasks that are supposed to be listed here based on the task that we have as the parent. So the relation here, it's between these two, so the main task and the subtask. So when you open relations, add new, then it's this one down here. What we have Number one is give it a name, and make sure the name that you give is descriptive and unique to this specific thing that you are doing, so that when you go back to it later on, you don't get confused trying to figure out which is which. The parent object is individual task, which is a CPT. The child object is personal subtasks, which is a CCT, and the relationship type is one to many. What this simply means is that one task can have so many subtasks under it. Then once that part is done, down here, you only need to set what you want to be used as the field title, or the title field, when you are viewing this inside the CPT in the back end. And that's all you need to do with this thing. So that is done. So we are done with all those three things. The next thing, we want now to build this listing here. So we will go to Jet Engine again, go to listings, then add new, and this is a CCT again. So the listing that we will create is a CCT listing. But there is something else that you need to understand that I just need to clear or to clarify in 1 second. And I hope nobody is getting confused anywhere. If you have a question, ask them in the comment section below, and I will respond to them when I get time. So personal subtasks. Now you can decide. There are two ways you can create this listing. You can create this listing using the query that we just created, but for more control, we will simply use the CCT, because this is a CCT. Then we will know how to use that query later on when we get to this part. So then create one, and it's a content type listing. So this, and we will just see what we have in a listing in a short while, or we can add something here. Should I add an attachment? Not really, not now. Then I will submit that. So that you can see what we have here. So it's just simple and straightforward. We have when the subtask was created, the content of the description, then an attachment, and that's all. So here, let's see. So we have 1, 2, 3, and that's all. What we do here, we draw in a dynamic field, then the source, it's post term user object data. Now for this, since it's a CCT, it will be object data. That's where we have everything that we need for CCTs. I mentioned this in one of the earlier videos that we did. Then go to the object field, and what you want to do is simply get the correct created date for that specific CCT. So if you have a lot of CCTs, then you want to make sure that you use the correct. So this one here, let me just show you. You will always find them named here. So content type, then the content type name has been given. So make sure you select correct details, because if you miss here, you will be wondering why your thing is not working correctly. So once that is done, you can give it an icon if you want. Then what's important here, make sure to enable filter field output, and the callback should be human readable time difference. Then you can also proceed to customize the field output and add something. For me, it's ago. or if you don't want to do that, you can leave it as is. Drop in another dynamic field widget, and this time around we are selecting description because that's what we want, but making sure it's from the individual subtask CCT. Then the last one here, it's the attachment. Again, we drop in the dynamic field widget, then select the attachment from the list, and that's all you need to do. But for the attachment bit, there is something down here that's important. Number one, enable the filter field output. Then from the callback, you need to look for get attachment file link by ID. Why? Because our attachments are saved as IDs in the database, and we want to get their links using that using that callback. Then scroll down and decide how you want this to be displayed. So for me, it's custom. From the drop down list here, it's custom, and I'm giving it a specific name, which is view attachment, and that's all for this listing. So that is done for this listing, and I think let us now go to the to looking into how to put all these things together on this field and setting up the correct conditional visibilities. Then this will be done. Okay, so this is a normal single post template. This is a normal single post template. So that's what's going on here. So this is a single post. So what we have, the first thing here, this is a dynamic field again, and this is the title. So it's the title here for the task or the post. Then down here, this is another dynamic meta. It's a dynamic meta, and I'm simply showing them the created date when the task was created. Then down here, it's where you need to pay some attention. So this is a normal title, priority, and these are terms from this priority taxonomy. So what you need to do is drop in a dynamic terms widget and select the correct taxonomy from the list. In this case here, it's personal task, priority for personal task. Make sure this is off, show all terms is off, and linked terms also make sure to turn this off, because we do not want these things to be clickable. Okay, yep, we do not want them to be clickable. We just want them for viewing only and not being clicked. And you can add an icon if you want to. That's all. Styling is entirely up to you. And what's important now is go to the advanced tab, then go to the dynamic visibility, enable this, then show element if what condition is met. Post has terms, that's the condition. Post has term, that's the condition. And what's the value? This here, it's a term slug. This here, it's a term slug. And where is this term coming from? From this taxonomy down here, which is priority for personal tasks. In most cases, you might forget to configure this part down here, and you will be wondering why your thing is not working. It's because you just forgot to get the correct stuff here. So make sure you get this right, and that's done. Duplicate it 2 more times. For low and medium, do exactly what we have done. Status is exactly the same process. Drop in a dynamic terms widget and select the correct taxonomy from the list. So this is status for individual tasks. Then make sure this is off. Make sure linked items also is off. You can give it an icon if you want, and any other thing that you want to do. Then proceed to the advanced tab. Go to the dynamic visibility section, enable it, then show condition type is, the visibility condition type is show element if condition is met. And what condition is it? Post has terms. What terms? completed for this specific element that we are dealing with right now, and from which taxonomy, that is status. And this status is specifically for personal or individual tasks. So that is done. Duplicate it as many times as you want, or rather based on what you have. Repeat the same process, giving each one the correct visibility condition. You will be done with that. Now these down here, these are meta fields, and the first one, this is from metadata, this dynamic field, by the way. Then the source is metadata. The meta field is start date. Just make sure you select the correct start date from the correct CPT, because you have multiple CPTs on your system. You make sure to select the correct one to avoid conflicts and confusion. So that is done. Give it an icon if you want to. Then down here, it's very important, and callback should be format date, and give it the format that you want. If you want more formats, use this link, go to WordPress documentation, and you will get more of this, so you can use as you want. So that is done. And also, it's important for you to remember that we saved this in the database as a Unix timestamp. So it's very important for you to enable this callback so that it's human readable. Then the customize field output down here, this is a preference or the approach for me. So I have start there, and I'm also using basic HTML tags here to bold those. I have repeat the same process for the due date, and for the due time it's different. So go to the source is metadata, due time, of course, for this personal task. Then I've given it an icon there, and down here, this is what I'm doing for this thing. The fallback text, which is all day, it's because in my forms, this thing here is optional. The user can add the time, or they can leave it blank if they want to complete their task, or rather they want to use the entire day to do the task. So that's why I'm using all day, because that's simply what that means. If I did not set a specific time for completing the task, then that means I have the whole day for me to complete that task. I would have otherwise just hide this value, hide this field if the value is empty, and that's all for that. Now for the description part, just drop in a dynamic field, then select the correct dynamic field from the list. That is, the source is metadata. We are dealing with metadata here because this is a this is a CPT. So CPTs, you'll always use metadata to go in and select the meta fields that you created for your CCT while dealing with them here. So that is done. Then now in the attachment part here, there is some things that I need to explain. That is because, number one, we are not dropping in a dynamic field as usual. Instead, we are dropping in a dynamic repeater. Why? Because, let me go back to this. I just have to save this. Let me do these personal tasks here, and let me just go to a new one so that I can explain that. Now remember, our attachments is a repeater field, as you can see here, right? Yep. So that's why we don't drop in a normal dynamic field, but we drop in a repeater dynamic field. So that is what you do. Then source, you select the source, and in this case here, as you see, our source here is task attachment. That's the repeater key. Task attachment, that's the repeater key, which is a source. And the item format, this is where I want to explain, so kindly pay attention. Number one, I'm using a table, So my HTML item tag here, the item tag here, the HTML item tag, sorry, it's tr, that is for tables. Before and after markups, there are HTML markups for tables. And now let me explain the macro that we are using here. So td, this is a tag for table, HTML tag for table, you know that. And this is a link, again, you know about that. But now the macro here, the first part before we separate it with the pipe character, this here, I hope you are paying attention, please. So p task file, let me go back to here. That is the item name. That is the item name, because this is what stores the real file. And we know how the real file is stored. It is stored as an ID. So we add that, then separate with the pipe character. Why? Because we want to make sure that we call, or rather we use the ID to get the URL of that file. That's why we have this next part, which is file URL by ID. And that's all. So I hope you've gotten that clearly. Now, if for your case you are maybe not storing them as IDs but URL, then you don't need to use this next part, because after all they are already URLs. So why do you want to do that again? So kindly make sure you read through Crocoblock documentation on how this thing works, so that you can understand how to use these other item HTML tags, div and list, if you want to try those two. So that is done for that. The next part here, this is just a form, and since I'm using JetPopup, I will drop in a widget. Go to Advanced tab, then configure the correct JetPopup. Let me just show you very fast. Attached pop-up, select the correct pop-up if you are using JetPopup, and the trigger type here is click on widget. This form, we've already looked into it, and that's a done thing. Now the listing here, first you need to drop in a listing grid, then select the correct list from the drop down, and do all the other configurations that you want here. If you want infinite scroll, if you want to use pagination, whatever you want to use. Then now, this is the most important thing that I tried to explain earlier on. If you did not understand, it's time for you to understand. This custom query, it's the query that we created, remember, subtasks for current personal task. And what we specifically did for that query is that we specified one clause, which was the ID, the task ID should be equivalent to the current task. So that means that only the posts that meet that condition will be displayed here in this listing. And that's all. Now suppose you are listing, you created this listing directly with this query so that it was a query listing rather than being a CCT listing. Then this second part would be irrelevant, because it would be direct and it should work just like that. Now before we go to this last part of this form, which I have already explained 80% of how it works, just explain one more thing about what you are seeing right now. This part here, it's important because currently Jet Engine does not provide a way for us to make these single posts private, or rather visible to specific roles or specific people that we want. What that means is that this thing, as you can see it right now, it's public. So anybody can see it if you are not careful. So how do you go about it? This is what you do. All the elements, actually not all the elements, because that will be a lot of work. All the containers that you add inside here should be secured with a dynamic visibility condition, and that's pretty simple. That is show element if the user is logged in. So anybody that is logged out should not be able to see this thing. You can even add other conditions if you want, so that they can be visible specifically to the task owner. If you want to do that as well, it's possible by simply adding more visibility conditions. So I have done that for all these. Then down here I have added this, because now if we are showing these containers to only logged in users, that means if I land on this page and I'm not logged in, then I will be looking at an empty page. Then I will be like, did this break or something? So to take care of that, I added this section down here, and simply just to make sure that if I'm not logged in and I land here, I can have a way to easily log into the page. And the dynamic visibility here, it's the opposite of the other ones, that is show element if user is not logged in, and that is done. Now when it comes to dynamic visibility, I think that's all we need to do here. For this editing form, I already explained this in the earlier videos. We created that form, remember? Yes, we did. We created the editing form. So you might want to refer back to the video if you forgot anything. And again, I'm using JetPopup for this. So you will go to Advanced tab and select the correct pop-up from the drop down. And the trigger type is click on widget. Now lastly, let's look at this form, and there is just one thing that we need to do. I said we are hiding the button, we are hiding the submit button using some CSS, and that's what I want to show you. So go to custom CSS. You can add that CSS anywhere else on your website. It should work. So remember the button, we gave our button a CSS class name, and that's what is here, and that's all you need to know. So this is what we are using to hide that button. And for you to know, let me just remove that thing. Let me do that. You can see we have a button showing up there, so that is just for you to see. Okay, now the other thing about styling and all that, you should do that on your site based on what you want, and that's all. Okay, for this one here, this is a dynamic link. This is a dynamic link, and the source is delete current. So delete, so this is to delete this if I want to do that. So delete current post link, then make sure to describe whatever you want to describe there, and then this is very important because you need to redirect the user somewhere after they delete this thing. So for my case, I simply direct them to the tasks main page. After they delete a single task, they are redirected to the task page where all other tasks are listed. Then it's permanent, so they don't move to trash. It's permanent, and that's all. So thank you very much for watching up to that point. We are only left now with one thing, and that is creating the similar thing for tasks that have been assigned or assigned tasks. We will go and look into a very slight difference, and that will be a very short video, maybe 20 minutes, and that will be it for this series. Thank you, and let me see you in the next one.